right, so last recipe. We're rolling today. We wanted to do, so usually we finish off with a dessert. We wanted to actually do sort of a snack.
Yeah.
Like a holiday snack today.
Yeah. So keeping in mind, you know, the appearance and the taste, as well as the smell, and even the sound. Yes, we could listen to our food as we eat it. And again, the texture that you have in your mouth and on your hands is where we're drawing inspiration for these recipes.
Absolutely. So today we are going to be doing a trail mix. This is a little bit different.
A fancy one.
Fancier trail mix, like a holiday trail mix. Chestnuts, for me, reminds me of this time of year. Has anyone cooked chestnuts before?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we actually cooked chestnuts last year from the shell, and I included those tips on there. So the first two instructions are if you have whole chestnuts. I didn't want to show you today because I'm going to focus on something else, but pretty much my trick is to slit them and then soak them in hot water. So like you boil some water in a tea kettle, soak them in hot water for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then drain them, and then roast them in the oven. And then the shell and the skin pops right off really easy. If you don't have time for that, they have the vac packed ones as well. Mm-hmm. They're already cooked, ready to go. Those are also really good in this recipe. So this is sort of inspired from a cake from Tuscany, which uses chestnuts, and the chestnuts they grind into a flour, and they use that flour and a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of water to make this really thin cake, and they stud it with different nuts and different dried fruit and rosemary. So you have this sort of sweet and savory thing going on with local ingredients. And for me, it reminds me again of like just a sensory explosion. Lots of different aromas, lots of different flavors, lots of different emotions as well, right? So cooking, as much as it can be emotional eating, you can have emotional cooking as well, right? It can sort of remind you, it can be nostalgic, and that can make things taste better. Mm-hmm. So with this one, the recipe I gave you, you can bake it in the oven. You can do it that way. I'm going to show you, this is the second way you can do it. I like this way because we're sort of building aromas, and you can almost smell every stage of your cooking just to know that you're on the right track. So I have a hot pan here. It's about medium heat, and I'm going to start off with some rosemary, like this, and I have a couple sprigs, and I'll just throw them whole, like this, right into the pan. And you guys let me know as soon as you smell the rosemary, right? So that's sort of the first thing. And add just a little bit of olive oil, just to crisp it up a little bit. Can you smell the rosemary yet? No, it's coming. It's coming.
Oh, there, I got it.
I'm getting it. Right? And we're also using our ears as well, right? We're listening to what it should sound like. If it's screaming, if it's too hot, now you got it. See? Now it's in the first row, then it'll hit the second row.
It's going in a wave.
Yeah. Right? So it's got a nice sizzle to it. It's not burning, it's not too hot, and there is a sizzle. It's not too quiet, which means that we're in a good point here, right? So that's the other thing with recipes in general. My recipes, a recipe from a cookbook, it might say 15 minutes, it might say 20 minutes, it might say 300 degrees, 400 degrees. In your kitchen, it's going to be different, right? And it might not always work out exactly the way it says, because your oven's going to be a little different. You might not have convection. The ingredients might be a little different. The humidity in the air might change it. So that's why it's important to try to use your senses as much as possible to really tell, am I on the right track? Is this the colors? This is when I need to take it out versus being 15, 20 minutes. So definitely using that in combination is really helpful. Everyone got the rosemary?
Yeah.
Hands up, yes, okay. Which means our next step, we're gonna add some nuts. We're gonna toast some nuts in here. So I have, and this is whatever you have, pretty much. If you have almonds, if you have hazelnuts, I have some almonds here. I have a few pine nuts as well. Traditionally for this chestnut cake, you would use pine nuts because pine nuts were readily available in that area. Here they're not, and that's why they cost like $3,000 a gram, right? So you can definitely use something else, some pistachios, whatever you want in here. And we're gonna toast these up. And again, same thing. As you're cooking, that's the next smell I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get this sort of nutty smell going on. So I got the rosemary and this nutty smell. So we're building these flavors almost into our memory.
Yeah.
So we've locked them in, and this is, you know, the order we go in.
Yeah.
Then with the chestnuts as well, I'm just breaking them up. These are the cooked chestnuts, just breaking them up into smaller chunks like this. We'll add that to the dish, as well as some dried fruit. You can add raisins. These are actually dried blueberries, which I like. They're a little bit different. We'll add all of that to our pan. And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so during the holidays, we're, you know, a lot of surrounding by food sometimes, right? Like holiday parties, family gatherings, work events. And so, you know, it is important to, you know, you might overindulge a little bit, but you want to try to, you know, eat regularly, right? Even if you do have a holiday party coming up, and, you know, snacking on something like this is always a good idea. And so again, that's just tapping into that, the sight hunger. So, you know, often we call it the seafood diet, where you, whatever food you see, you eat what it is. And so there actually has been quite a number of studies on, you know, seeing the food, but actually sometimes it being a mindless act. So just kind of overeating for the sake because it's in front of you. And so sometimes I like to, you know, talk about turning the mindless eating act into more of a mindful act, or you could eat mindlessly but choose more healthy alternatives to whatever that is. So instead of kind of munching on, let's say, chips, and you want that crunchy taste, instead go for carrots or celery, something like that, or nuts, right? Because you're going to get that crunchy taste and the healthy fats too.
You guys start to smell the toasted nuts now?
Yes.
Like the rosemary, the toasted nuts. And then the last thing that I like to add again, to add a nice punch of fragrance, is just the zest of the orange. And this is sort of the same principle, as soon as those oils start to warm up, you're going to get that fragrance. Now, just a word of caution, if you are cooking over gas and you have an open flame, don't be surprised if you're zesting over your pan, over the open flame, if you get a few flares, because there's a concentration of alcohol in the zest that will react to the flame. So
just be careful.
Just be careful.
Oh, I smell the orange now too.
So now you smell the orange. It'll probably get you soon. Yeah, push it over. Very nice. So the last thing here, so we got the orange. The last thing here is we're gonna add just a little bit of sweetness. My favorite, a little bit of maple syrup. I'm not adding too much. So again, it's not loaded. You don't have to be too worried about sugar. So just a little bit there over top. And as it bubbles, as it sizzles, and you smell the orange and now the maple come through. See, the cooking process is almost just as fun as the eating process, right? Because you're getting all these, activating all these senses. And that's it.
Yeah.
So this can be done even on the day of if you want. Maybe don't plate it on a board. This is just all I had, but very awkward.
Very nice. Yeah.
All right. There we go. So really nice sort of chestnut trail mix with rosemary and orange and maple. So something a little bit different for the holidays. But definitely a great way to start practicing mindful snacking.
Yes.
And mindful eating and mindful cooking as well. So that's it. That's the last recipe.
Happy 2017.